No laila. E te atua na o matua na hui te lana matununi nā tupuna o hana pauroa. Ia pauroa hui puia me karanui me karamana o te atua. Ia pauroa piri te vai ora, te vai la, te vai a kāni, te vai a te atua. Ia pauroa hui pui ke aina o waimea. I hui puia no leo kano, i hui puia ho mai ka ike me ka ike pāpā lua ka ike pono i ke hui ana i nei. Ho mai ka mana o pū me ka mana o pono me ka mana o i loko i nei. No lai to o ia pauroa to ki te ara mai ta i te hau, o ki te ara mai ta i kia papa. No lai mai te ra ao, okino, te okino, te okino, e tiroi, te ara mai tai, te tiroi, te otino, te ara mai tai. Me te roha mai ta mana no hoi, po mai tai anō tātua pauroa. Po mai tai e anō te vai kapu, te vai la o vai au, hui puia me kanhui me karamana. No lai la ho o la anō tātua pauroa, ho la anō tātua pauroa, te lumi tu hui ana, te pili ana me ka vai kapu, te vai la, te vai o kāne, te vai a kia kua. Mahara nui na tui ana, mahara nui tui ana, arhono o tātua pauroa. Quick introduction, my name is Ikalani Flores. Ohana resides here at Pukapa, Waimea. I'm an educator, been teaching and working in education, particularly Hawaiian studies and Hawaiian cultural programs and education for over 40 years. I'm a professor at Hawaii Lifestyles, professor at Hawaii Community College at the Palamanui campus as such. Kanaka Maoli, also referred to as Native Hawaiian. And so today's presentation is to give you a cultural understanding when we talk about wai or vai. Like what is wai from a cultural perspective. And also the other part of the intention is like to look at where are the waters of Waimea. Like where specifically can we find the waters of Waimea? And then how and what can be done so that these waters can sustain us and that can give us life as such. So with that in mind, if you have a handout, you should get a handout. If not, our assistants here, Steve, will provide you a handout. And so we're actually going to begin with that. So yeah, raise your hand. He'll come around and pass out a handout as such. And this handout, in part, we're going to look at here, it's a traditional mele. And in this mele, it speaks about where are the waters of Kani. And the mele is entitled He Mele no Kani. And it poses a question, like it asks you, He ui, he ni nau. Like I'm asking you, where are the waters of Kani? And it's broken down to these 6 verses as such. And so what I'm going to actually do is because I'm a teacher, so I'm going to break it up into little small groups, but real short. So I'll give you instructions before we break out. So I'm going to assign each group one particular verse. There's 6 verses here. What I want the group to distinguish in one sentence is where are the waters of Kani, or where are these fresh waters, as noted in that particular verse. So I'm going to just break you up into 6 groups as such. But in your group, what I want you to initially do is introduce yourself, like your name and where do you live. Okay, don't give your genealogy going back to the time of the Kumulipo, because we don't have time for that. Okay, but introduction, so that when you are outside and see how this, the intention is also one to just interact and to meet somebody else in this room here or at this summit here, but also to interact and engage in a smaller context as such. And then the third thing you're going to do, so introductions, name and where you're from, and then the second second part is identifying where in that verse are found the waters of Kani, or where these fresh waters. And a third thing is I'm going to have your group write out in one sentence saying the vai is found at, and just answer that question. So vai is found at, and I'll give you guys on that. And then wherever you guys coerce or designate in your group to and report out, you're going to report out to it. So I have a blue sheet so you can write on, a marker pen so you can write down. So it's real simple. It's like vai is found at, and then write it out, where is it found, according to your particular verse. Okay, so once again, name, where do you reside, go do that introductions first. Look at the verse, whatever verse assigned to you folks, and then write it out and designate somebody's going to report out to us. Okay, so it's going to go. So first verse, I'm going to just go from here. I'm going to just have in these 6 here, so the front can turn around to the 6 here. Second verse. So the second group is going to be these 6 here. Third verse. Is a 6 here. You can just, the front can turn around. Fourth verse, 6 here. You can turn around. Fifth verse, here. Sixth verse, here. So I didn't give you the context of the chant initially because I just wanted you to just dive in and take a look at it, and then you can figure out and maybe have questions as such. So in the context, the chant is said to be, it's a traditional chant. For long ago was recorded and written down as such, and the chant is often called Hemele no Kane. The chant is said to have originated from island of Kauai. But regardless of it, because it's on Kauai, it's relevant to wherever you're at in these islands as such. And we'll talk a little bit more about, there was a question about what is or who is Kane, so we'll delve into Kane as such. So what we were just going to determine now, based upon this chant, and embedded in these chants as such is Ike Kupuna, ancestral insight, knowledge, and wisdom is embedded in many of these chants of long ago. And they give us insight when we talk about topics such as Wai or water. And so real quickly, we're just going to go through in the 6 groups to see what they found where Wai or water is found. So start with group 1. You could, if you, unless you have a good voice, they can project beyond. Okay, good.
Our Wai is found emerging from the east and appears at Ha'ehae.
And so they're figuring out, they ask one of the questions, where's Ha'ehae? And I let them figure out, but somebody else went on and Google search or something and they found where Ha'ehae is. So you can, I didn't say you could, but you could use, and so Ha'ehae. Ha'ehae is the most eastern point on this island at the point of Kumukahi. So from the east, rising from the east at Ha'ehae is where the waters of Kane can be found. Going to group 2.
Wai is found at sunset as the Aina cools and the clouds mount at the sea, maybe from the northwest.
So often in traditional chants and so forth, they often refer to this Hawaiian archipelago from the rising of the sun to the setting of the sun. And so as they noted, in the setting of the sun, in this case, the reference points for the setting of the sun is Nihoa, which is the island past Nihau, and Lehua, which is near Nihau. So Nihoa is up in the Papahanaumokuakea area, also known as the northwestern islands. It's not the last island, but these are reference points. So from Ha'ehae to Nihoa, that's where the waters of Kane can be found. Group 3.
We had the third verse, which I believe is describing the watersheds. Here, in our local context, Mauna Kea and Kohala, the mountains, the ridges, the valleys, the springs, the watershed.
Okay, mahalo. So now we're referencing places on the land. And group 4.
We have the Wai comes from the ocean, it evaporates into the clouds, and through the clouds and the rainbows down to the land.
Okay, mahalo. So we're looking at all different types of water forms. Group 5.
Hey there. So our water is in the stormy, dark, thick clouds, often seen during the season of makahiki.
Okay. So also no other elemental water forms and fresh water can be found in group 6.
Our Wai is in the earth, in the aquifer, and out of the springs.
Okay. So we have that. So when we look at this chant, the chant tells us where you can find fresh water and where you can find Vai as such. So I won't hold questions to the end. I'll take questions as we go. So any questions up to this point regarding the chant that anybody wants to be clarified, answered before we go further? And we'll talk about Kani as well. Any other topics or things in the chant? Okay, so let me play the chant for you. And this couple here is going to give you this chant as, and I mean, we'll demonstrate this. I want to say demonstrate. Perform is not actually a good word. We'll do Hemele no Kan. Yeah.
He ui, he ni nau. E ui e kuna uia o e i hea kawai a kāne. Ai kahi kina kala, pū kai hai hai. Ai laila kawai a kāne. E ui e kuna uia o e i hea kawai a kāne. Ai kaulana kala, i ka pai o pua i ke kai. E ia mai ana mani hoa makamole mai o le pua. Ai laila kawai a kāne. E ui a kuna au ia oe i hea kawai a kāne. Ai e ke kua hiri, ke kua lono, ke a vāva i ke kāwai. Ai lai a kawai a kāne. E ui a kuna au ia oe i hea kawai a kāne. Ai a i kai, i ka moana, i ke kua lau, i ke ā nue nue. I ka pūlau, i ka ua poko, i ka ā lewa lewa. Ai lai a kawai a kāne. E ui a kuna au ia oe i hea kawai a kāne. Ai luna kawai a kāne. I ke au uri, i ke au ele ele. I ke au pano pano. I ke au popono hua mea kāne la e. Ai laila kawai a kāne. E ui a kuna au ia oe i hea kawai a kāne. Ai lalo i ka honua, i ka vai huu. I ka vai kau a kāne me kalanoa. He vai pula, he vai inu. He vai mana, he vai ola, e ola no, e a. Ola I ka vai.
And there is the waters of Kani. There is the fresh waters as such. So the question is Kani. What is Kani? Kani, if you read in books and such, Kani is described as one of the four major gods. But really, in the context of when we say the word God or goddess, everybody has a different interpretation based upon their own belief of what a god or goddess is. So if you want to find out more in depth, take my Hawaiian spirituality class at Hawaii Community College, but I'm going to give you just a brief overview as such. So when we talk about the understanding, the Kanaka Maoli, the Native Hawaiian understanding about things in the cosmos and things as such, they did have and understood and acknowledged there was a supreme creator, a supreme being. And they referred to as, one of the names given to it was Eo. But they also understood and recognized that there were other, what we call God, goddesses, deities, and so forth. That the creator put these other, you can say God, goddesses, deities, on this planet, on this earth, to take care of certain aspects of nature, take care of certain elemental forms of nature, and to keep things in balance and harmony. So often when you hear about Kani, Kanaloa, Lono, and Ku, the best way to think of them and to understand them is that they're caretakers of the natural elements. Without labeling them as a god or goddess, they're caretakers of the natural elements. So when you come to Kani, Kani is the caretaker of freshwater elements. And so the question that's posed in this chant is, where is the waters of Kani? And it tells you everywhere where these elemental forms, these aspects of fresh water can be found. And Hawaiian fresh water is Vai, also pronunciated as Wai. So Wai or Vai, either way, it can be pronunciated as such. These are the forms of Kani. They're the manifestations of Kani. So if you can think of Kani, Kani oversees these aspects of water on this earth in that context. And we're talking about fresh waters to clarify as such. So Kani has a counterpart, another caretaker of the elements, and that's Kanaloa. Kanaloa is the caretaker of saltwater elements. So we're talking about the ocean and those life forms in the ocean. Those are the realm of the places that Kanaloa takes care of. Okay. And so opening today, use these two elements. One is for cleansing and clearing of things that are not good energies as such. That was Pa'akai, that was salt. The other element opened up we did there was water. Water has it's particularly water that's gathered from certain places, have certain qualities of energy. And this particular water is from Lake Waiau up on Mauna Awakea. So in our family, we use these and other elements for these purposes. So if we're doing something in ceremonies or we're opening up a place, we're doing clearing, cleansing a place first. So we're using elements of Kanaloa, and then we're using blessings of that place. Putting a foundation of energy that's high vibrational frequency energy that's the best for that place or that gathering there. And those are these elements used as such. And so the Pa'akai, the salt that we use, and the water we use is gathered from particular places. And so when you read certain mo'olelos and stories, some of them talk about Kanaloa and Kani traveling together. So when you read a mo'olelo, you can't take it too literally. So in the mo'olelos and stories, they're two persons. I'm saying they're not two persons. They're natural elements. Hawaiian gods and goddesses and deities, most of them, if not all, are of the natural elements. But the difference is they have a consciousness. That's the key. They have a consciousness. It's not just the rain, oh, that's Kani. No, the rain and these things have consciousness. And when I mean consciousness, they can interact and engage with us as humans. And we can interact with them. That's why there's chants. That's why there's prayers. So pule and oli, that's why there's hula and dances. To interact, connect with them, acknowledge them, tell their stories. That's what this chant is about. It's telling us in this particular chant these waters of Kani. But when you look at the two, they're in some olas, they're traveling along, and then they're needing like to quench their thirst. They'll plunge the oars into the ground, and then up percolates a spring. What the mo'olelo is really telling us is that these two, why we say they're counterparts, because the ocean and the salt water and the fresh water are connected. Because one comes from the other comes from, they're all connected. So you look at the water cycle, right? The water that evaporates from the ocean comes up into the clouds, and it comes and it is deposited on the land, and it comes down either on the streams or come down in the aquifer in the springs, and it starts a cycle again. That's what the story is telling us, that these two caretakers of the elements are counterparts to each other. You can't have fresh water without salt water and vice versa. And that's what the mo'olelos is telling us in the context of Kani and Kanaloa. So the question is, Aihea Kawai o Waimea, where are the waters of Waimea as such? So when we look at Waimea, even the name itself, some Kupuna elders would say the name Waimea comes from the color of the water. And there's other interpretations of how the name is derived from. But if you look at the water of Waimea, and you look in this picture here, there's a little tint in the color of Waimea, the waters of Waimea. If you go to other places and other streams, the water is clear. Now, I'm not referring to when it rains hard and the mud is coming in the water. It's not what I'm referring to. When you see the water that flows down from the streams high up in the watersheds and it comes down through the Waikoloa stream, and you look in the water, there's a tint in there, this reddish tint. And that's what mea also refers to. The old timers say that that color comes from the mosses and the plants up further up in the watershed. And that's what tints or colors our water. Now when the water comes down to us, we turn on our faucet, it's clear. There's a lot of effort taken by the Board of Water Supply to take out the color. So that, because if people saw like reddish color coming in after when they open the faucet, they'd be a little concerned. So they do things to filter out this water, the tint and the color is an organic type of aspect of it, and they have to actually decolor the water before it gets to our household. So next time you actually see the water running in streams running, take a look at it. And there's like, it's a tint in the color, a reddish tint. And so some say that's where the name comes from, the reddish water, Waimea. And so we're looking at where are the waters of Waimea. So the waters of Waimea come from the watershed, our watershed up here. And so you look from here, you can look up, you'll see there's various different pu'us and hills of Waimea. That's where Waimea's water comes from. Okay. Also connected to water are mo'o. Mo'o, and this is taken from the Mele mural that's actually on the side of Kahilo Theater that was done by students, faculty, and community members. And it's depicting Mo'oinanea and her family. Manaua and her family. Manaua and her family. And Manaua is the caretaker, the regulator of water in Waimea. She helps, so we talk about Kane, right? Kane is overlooking the waters of Waimea. Manaua helps in the bringing forth water specifically for these areas of Waimea. And Manaua plays a significant part in that, as such. She's a mo'o wahine. A mo'o wahine is referred to those who are part mo'o. Mo'o, if you're not familiar with, like reptilian, lizard, but she's also part human, and she can also shapeshift, and as well as other mo'os as such. Here's with her family, her kane and the children. Another close-up picture. This is from the mural here. And there's a rock also called Manaua. And old-timers will call, and people of Waimea refer to as the rain rock. This is where, in the area of where the old Jacaranda Inn is in that part, is like right above Anna's house. There's this rock there. It's not just a rock. But Manaua, one of her places that she is in the waters of, is what people call Anna's Pond. So Koha, that stream that comes down up in Anna's Pond. And she comes down at times to sunbathe on this rock, as well as other mo'os do. So the question people ask, who or what are mo'os? Mo'os aren't spirits. Mo'o are, the best way to explain it from our family's interaction with mo'o, including Manaua and other mo'os around these islands, is that they're like humans. They have families, they have children, they have grandparents, grandparents. They're just like humans, but their lifespan is much longer than humans. So a number of the mo'os we met, they can tell us and give us insight about the particular places, what they experienced their lifetime, but their lifetime is much longer. So they can tell us things like what happened in Wakahiko, like what happened during the times of the ali'is and chiefs that were in this area, or particular places such. What is their function and role? And there's mo'os, they live like humans. So the best way I'm going to say it is they're there, here on this earth. Some of them are caretakers of these fresh waters, and they're like us as humans, but they're like at they're resonating at a different vibration, and I would say another dimension. Family members who can see them, communicate with them, other people we know that can see and communicate with them. Our grandparents could have seen them at different places and such, and told us mo'olelos and stories about them. They're here, like us as humans. They live off the land, live off the waters, but there's resonated at a different vibration, so said, a different dimension of, but they're still here on Earth. 98% of the time, if you're going to a place where there's a spring of water, whether it's up in the mountains, a pool of water, or down in the fish ponds, there's mo'os there. Living there. And they've been living there for longer than us as humans as such. They also, and the mo'os also, and don't ask me how this all happens. As they communicated with us, some consummated with humans. That's why some can be in human form and be partly in mo'o form. Some can be in full human form. Some can be in full mo'o form. Some can shapeshift. That's how it is with the mo'os. Our kupuna, our ancestors and others knew them, acknowledged them, connected with them, honored them, respected them when they went to certain places or went swimming or gathering water. There were mo'os there to take care of certain places of water. Going back to Manaua. Manaua takes care of the waters that come into Waimea. She brings in waters in Waimea as such. She's a key part of the waters of Waimea. And so is her family members as such. So our family members as such at times will bring lei here. There's a tradition going way back. Paniolo and other families of Waimea brought lei to this pohaku here. The lei is not to worship them, but to acknowledge them, to honor them. Just like if you're going to someone's house and you're connecting with them. The lei and other things that are brought here at Manaua, at this particular pohaku, this stone here, is to connect with them, sometimes ask for rain, as such. And there's a whole mo'olelos and story about this, and my wife Pua Case, and that's our daughter in Kapolei Flores, and our other daughter Havani Rios, and here presenting lei here. And there's a whole another mo'olelos regarding how my wife Pua and her family became connected to Manaua. And in part, it occurred because her father, William Case, used to work on Parker Ranch. He was a water superintendent. And so he used to go to all these different places where the water is connected to, where Parker Ranch was using. And there was a severe drought in either the early 1980s. There was a drought, and then there were things that happened at that time to bring back water to Waimea. And it was connected to Manaua. But that's another for another time. So my wife is at another presentation. She can give you her story about that as such. Because time is limited. So the streams of Waimea. The streams of Waimea, the top three streams, Waikoloa, Kohakuhau, Keanu I'o Mano, are perennial streams. They're like the main streams that flow from up in the watershed all the way down to the sea, and also Wai'ulaula. Sorry, the four up there. But when the water comes down, it flows from one place to one area to the next, and then the name, sometimes the same stream, but the name changes to when it gets down. So when it gets down to, and you're familiar with Ma'umai, down at the coast there, that's where the water comes out. Wai'ulaula, it's that stream that comes out there. So it's the same water. Sometimes it's connecting up. And you see here, thanks to Emominaltin, she brought this map here. So you can see these streams, and they connect together, and they eventually make their way down to the coast here. And then when it gets to the ocean, it's called, that particular stream is called Wai'ulaula. The other names are other tributaries that feed into these streams. It's not an inclusive list, but just some of the other ones here. Lani Mau Mau, Waiauia, and Lani Kepu are a few of the other tributaries that feed into these streams as such. But these four streams that eventually up here, eventually forms down to here, the top four, are perennial streams. Perennial means that they're flowing all year long. Then you may ask, you look at the stream, where's the water then? Why isn't the water not getting down to here if it's flowing from above? And I'll explain why that's the case. There's another example of what's here, up here, of these streams. So once again, Aihekawai Kani. Where are the waters of Kani? Aihekawai o Waimea. They're up here in our watershed, just like it talked about in a chant in that particular verse. It comes in the watershed and it's coming down, and then it's going to go into the ocean as such. And this is what this picture or this diagram depicts as such. So why isn't the water coming all the way down to the ocean as it should be if the stream is supposed to be running all year round? Well, there's diversions that happens above in a watershed area. Okay. The diversions look like this. waters, there's sections of the stream that are dammed, and there are pipes that diverting water from up in the watershed and taking it to other parts of Waimea and beyond Waimea. There's old ditches as well up there. And so those who are primary diverting water is going to be the Department of Water Supply and Parker Ranch, or have diversions on these major streams up there. So I'm also a member of Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club, and our Civic Club did also get a grant from Richard Smart Foundation to host water forums. And so we have these water forums. We had hosted two. One was with the Department of Water Supply to give us an overview of what's the waters in Waimea, and we also had another forum with Department of Land and Natural Resources. And they also provided some information. And so as our Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club is also planning other types of forums coming up, I'll pass out a sign-in sheet, and I'll pass this sign-in sheet if you're interested. And all you need is your name and email. Don't worry, I'm not going to sell your emails to anyone or any company. But if you want to, you don't have to. This is optional. But if you want to be informed when other forums come up, or where there might be some field trips set up to go to some of these places. So if you're interested, and if you're not already on our mailing list, or at least our email list, that is, please put your name on a paper, and I'll make sure that the next time Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club, and it's not just for Hawaiians, it's for the community. These forums and these site visits are scheduled for. So we'll let you know when things are coming up as such. So I'll pass it on a sign-in sheet if you're interested. If not, that's fine. Okay, so looking at Waikoloa Stream. This is Waikoloa Stream above the diversion, or one of the diversions. And so you can see when you look at where are the waters of Kani, it's not just in the water, but it's in all these other forms, in the mist, in the clouds. These things all form the water that we know of as the waters of Kani. And so here's Waikoloa Stream, and it's not quite up, but it's above one of the major diversions. This is what the water and Waikoloa Stream looks like. And so when it gets to a place, and the old-timers call low pressure, the old-timers, the Paniolo call it low pressure. It's a lower part. They call high pressure, it's further up. This is low pressure, and it's the marine dam. This dam was built during World War II, when we had all those military personnel here. There wasn't sufficient water, so they created what is known as the marine dam. And basically the dam, there's a cement wall, not cement, but there's a stone wall that cuts the water off from going any further. Okay, so the water here then is diverted by the Department of Water Supply, and it goes into the reservoirs. Only if there's a big rain and big water, and the water can go over the dam, is when the stream's going to flow. If the water is not sufficient to go over the dam, it's not coming down the stream. It's going to go to the reservoirs.
Is that for Waikoloa Stream or all the streams?
And the two main streams that feed here, this is the Waikoloa Stream, where this marine dam is, and I'll show you the other stream, diversion there. So it fills up the reservoirs up here. We have 3 50 million gallon reservoirs up there. One is, it looks like there's water, this one is still not been repaired since the earthquake in 2008. Six, yeah, around that time, right? This thing is still not in repair. This is storage of fresh water to sustain the population in Waimea.
Who's responsible to repair it after all these years?
The Department of Water Supply is working on it, so that's the county, right? And they had some FEMA monies, and so the meeting that we had that invited them, they're saying they're in a process of getting it repaired. But we need to get it repaired sooner than later. So we're just down to 250 million gallons of reservoirs. that's up there right now for storage, that is. We're talking about storage. This is the other one up there, and there's a smaller one that's a little below. Okay, and so the bulk of Waimea's water is surface water. Why? Because it's easier, it's cheaper, it's all gravity fed. And I'll talk a little bit about the other source of water is going to be aquifers or wells. There's some water that goes for agriculture uses in the diversions as well. And the other diversion is a Kohakohau Dam. It's very similar to the marine dam. Kohakohau doesn't have maybe the same volume of water, but it works the same way. Unless there's enough water to come over, then it's going to come down the streams. If not, we don't have no water as such. Okay. So there's diversion pipes here. So both Department of Water Supply and Parker Ranch pull from these two diversion points, or these two streams, I should say, and at various parts in these streams.
Can you point out on the map where those are? Is that those little?
Okay, so up here is our reservoirs here. This is right above the pu'us. So if you're looking out, you come out Waimea, you look straight up the pu'us. They're right behind the pu'us. The reservoirs are. And then the streams feed into here. So we have Waikoloa stream that feeds into here. And then Kohakohau stream comes here. And then there's pipes that divert the water to here. Parker Ranch has smaller pipes that take the water to other parts for cattle and other purposes as such. And then the other version of water is the Department of Agriculture. They have the old plantation ditches and other things that divert the water further, that takes the water here and then takes it down all the way down the coast, or to Hamakua, I say the coast, but to Hamakua area, but also it takes it into other parts of Waimea for agricultural purposes. Question?
Does our water feed the resorts?
And not the resorts. Most of the resorts are by well, and some of our private wells. Most are they have private wells and to supply the waters for particular areas. Which is another point is having to do with the aquifer, right? Okay. So this is Kohakohau stream. This is like right behind near Anna's house, or Jacaranda is like behind. So the stream is flowing. Wow, it's beautiful. Like everybody in Waimea. Wow, the water's so beautiful after a big heavy rain. And it has to be a sustained rain up in the watershed for that to look like this, right? And this is the waters from the Waikoloa stream as such, coming down, gathered. And if it's like this, it'll be gushing out, then Wai'ulaula down at the ocean there. So we talk about water. Olaikawai, water is life. But then why are streams like this? Most times of the year, right? If it's supposed to be running perennial streams on a regular basis, then why does it look like this? I just took this picture the other day. This is what the streams look like, right? Okay. There was a law that was passed by the state in 1988 that was to determine in-stream flow standards, meaning like what is the minimum amount of water that should be flowing in a stream. Waimea, which is actually the stream that what they're referring to is going to be called the Waikoloa. So as a community, we need to get the Commission of Water Resource Management to take action on this as soon. It's like too long, it's going on. Why do we need water in the stream? There's a whole bunch of reasons. The water that comes through these streams feeds into the ocean. And there's sea life, animal life. The streams, we don't have oopu anymore. Oopu are goby fish that are supposed to be in the streams. We don't have, because they cannot. They have to be down in the ocean, and they lay their eggs out in the ocean, and they come back up the stream as a small, as later on, and they come back up in a cycle. They cannot come up. But it is more to that. This all feeds into our whole aquifer system. There has to be some minimum water flow in our stream. It cannot be fully diverted as is, as such. Also, so what I'm referring to is called the in-stream flow standard. The department is working on it, but they need to work on it faster. Because we're going to be in a situation like what's happening in Lahaina, right? Or West Maui right now, right? I'm not just talking about why the golf courses are turning brown. I'm talking about there's not sufficient water that's flowing through the streams. They're having that situation now. Waimea does not have sufficient water for its population to be on a sustainable track. Because we've already experienced in the past severe droughts, and we're in one now, but not as severe as before. And the population before, when the severe droughts happened, they didn't even have enough water at that time. They had to bring water tankers out. Our population, as and Pomai says, that's like not even doubles, like yeah. There's more people and more development in Waimea that our waters can sustain. And so if you see in a blue, this is in development, but the development has been taking too long to get water back into the stream to be flowing on a regular basis. So the other part to water in Waimea is wells. Going back to 2001, there was a report, an hydrology report looking at wells. Because at that point in time, we're talking about 20 years ago and plus, that they know there's not sufficient surface water to sustain Waimea. So they're looking at drilling wells as part of the aquifers. Certain wells, there are certain wells in existence now that they use at times. The Department of Water Supply has to use to supplement the surface water. But if this drought goes on and with climate changes going on, we're going to need other sources of water, and it can't be just solely surface water. And so money's going to have to come into well explorations and drilling and so forth if that's determined to be appropriate, at what appropriate places to supplement the water in Waimea. And right now but also drilling wells is also understanding what does the aquifer look like. It's really a big question, what does the aquifer look like? Because nobody can really say. And so there's in a process of putting in a deep well here, monitoring well, so you can monitor the fluctuation of water. Because like I said, most of on the coast water is being tapped into that aquifer. And there's various different types of aquifer, and it's still, because of the geology of the island and the way it's formed, and we have Mauna Kea lava flows from the Kohala Mountain, and how they converge together, and where these dikes and other waters and aquifers are, it's very difficult to find. When the military was here, when they built a dam, they also dug a well, but the well was dry. So they went down looking for water too, but they couldn't get it. There's other wells that have been dug. They're private wells in this aquifer area of Waimea. Some are being used, some weren't adequate enough as such. Okay.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
When you say they are private wells, what does that mean exactly?
It means
You own the ground, you purchased a land, you have rights to that water from the aquifer below it?
not technically. You get access. So in Hawaii, the water is a public resource. So you have to go through a permitting process if you're going to put a well in, and you have to go through the Commission of Water Resource Management, and they determine whether the wells should be allowed to be drilled in that area. So there are wells that have been dug. Besides for the resort and other places, wells have been drilled down. See, Waimea, the thing about Waimea, we're in a higher elevation, so the higher you are and the further you go, it costs more to drill, but it also costs more to pump up. That's why gravity flow surface water has been the primary source, because it's cheaper. It still costs money, but it's cheaper than having to pump water up.
So my question is, do they know how much water is in the aquifer? Because it seems like that's going to run out eventually too, no? reforestation happening.
Right.
Yeah.
So
The entire landscape is a watershed.
yeah.
But they will. Yeah, but
Yeah.
the aquifers are full.
Well,
Technically,
not,
there is a lot of water.
I
so
don't know if you can say it's ever full.
yeah.
Yeah, because it varies depending on how much we're using.
Yeah.
We use water every day.
And it depends on where you're going. So if so the water, it doesn't just recharge. It takes some cases 100 years, sometimes 1,000 years for the water to recharge. We're talking recharge from water in the watershed to that goes down, that doesn't come in the streams, that's going to feed into that aquifer eventually. So the question is, how much water can be pumped out without impacting the aquifer? And that's what these deep well monitoring wells are for. In reality, when you talk to hydrologists, they don't really know like how much water. They can give an estimate as such. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I had a friend, she's on the board, she's a Department of Water Supply, and she went underground in this elevator on the Hilo side. I mean, it was trippy. She showed me the video how she went underneath in this elevator, and even there she said it was low.
For
So,
for that well, it's very contextual, I think.
yeah.
So I'm involved in a lot of seaworm meetings right now. I'm in Lahaina, so when you mentioned the West Maui water woes, you're right on. I just wanted to add a little context. So for a private well, yeah, you can get a permit, and if you're not in an area that's been designated as a ground or surface water protection area, it's pretty easy. Seaworm gives them out pretty easily. If you're in a protected area, it's much harder. And what the seaworm and other water bodies try to do is they try to understand, they use a term called sustainable yield. And they characterize different aquifers by sustainable yield. And sustainable yield is what they estimate is the maximum you can withdraw before having a negative impact on the aquifer. And negative impacts are going to look like saltwater intrusion mostly. These deep monitoring wells are they're measuring chlorides, they're measuring salt. Because as we suck too much fresh water, it's going to suck that salt water, because it's all connected, it's going to suck it into there. And if our water comes out too salty from a well, you can't use it after a while, right? Nobody wants salty water. Nobody wants water that tastes funny. So there's that. So just know, lots of private water systems on the Big Island. Kohala Ranch has a private water system. Waikiki Ranch has a private water system. These developments that want to develop but don't have county water generally look to developing their own water system. And Waikiki's water is some of the most expensive water in the country, I heard. It's very expensive to pump. So just a little bit more background and context, if that helps.
Thank you.
Mahalo for sharing. I'm going to just jump to a question here. Oh. Yeah. If you look at, just to give you a you go down a resort area, I'm not picking upon a resort but if you look along like on the certain sections would have irrigation, you see it's all white. There's some concentration of chloride and salt in that water. So, which means that either their well is just tapping high into that stuff, or they're drawing out more water. But that's a bigger issue. But in reality, come back to, they can't really say how much water is in an aquifer. But they can look at monitoring, like you said, if you have all these wells and they're all sucking out or drawing out water, how is it impacting the aquifer? And then I'm going to go back to the question here.
How does that play into water rights and the fact that a lot of these lands have water rights, like the development that's going in below on Waihana Road, they have water rights. Where do those come in? How are they going to play into what? Water credits. Yeah, water credits, whatever. Right.
So,
No, but you know how
the credits and stuff. So that's why when our next forum come up, we're going to have a more detailed discussion. But I can give it a brief overview. So there are more aspects to this water. So there's actually in the law, there's Native Hawaiian and cultural practices and rights that are connected to this. The Department of Hawaiian Homes also has reservations on certain amount of water that's supposed to be given to or held or in trust for Hawaiian homes. And so we have major Hawaiian homes. Right? We're in Hawaiian homes here. We have in Kauai area, we have in Laiopua, we have Lalomilo. All those are supposed to be receiving a certain amount of water from this water trust here, or trust of connected to water. And so there's rights connected to it. So just generally, the distribution of water from the watershed to the reservoirs to the homes, that's the Department of Water Supply, is county, under county jurisdiction. The state, their commission and others are responsible for everything else having to do with water. How much, wells, having to do, and water flow, maintaining minimum stream flow, that's on the Commission of Water Resource Management.
Google the state water code.
Yeah.
If you want to learn more. The Hawaii State Water Code, it's not that long, but it'll talk about some of these water rights,
Right.
the
Yeah.
actual the public trust elements of the water law. Yeah.
And so as mentioned, so one things we're, as community members, as well as Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club, we're pushing to get interim in-stream flow standard for this here, to get water back into the stream. And so we're pushing for that. The other thing was mentioned that we're also going to try push next is getting a Waimea aquifer designated as a water designation for protection. But that takes a long process. We're just trying to let's get some water in the stream first, and then go for, when we talk about designating the Waimea aquifer as so they can be properly managed as such. I'm going to go back to here and then come back here.
Okay, I just want to, I have a major question for you, Kalani. It's how do you, your family, what's the Hawaiian view on what that stream flow should be to bring the streams back to life? And then I want to share that Hannah Springer asked me to do a hydrological cycle mandala for the Kona Airport Moama Island mural. I had no idea how complicated the systems underground are. So if you are knowledgeable about water, could you please look, I'm unveiling today that design after 6 months of research and 4 scientific reviews to try and go underground, because there's not just one aquifer. And if we look at an aquifer like a pool, like I did, for example, the basal lens under the island, it's not a pool. It's like hydrology engineers know how to take the water out of, different basaltic ash and stones and all the different layers. So I feel my heart pounding in this, and I want to thank you, Kalani, because this is so important. And the reason that I'm doing that, it's going to be an 8-foot stained glass mandala. I mean, this is the extent to that we are going to bring forth the educational aspect of the water, so people can ask really good questions and stand with Kalani and show up at these forums, because this is really a serious issue. So please check that out. It's a complicated system. There's a lot of different aquifers. There's dikes and dike impounded aquifers. There's 26 aspects of these systems.
So kind of leading to your question, because there's a few minutes left, and I'll try to get to other questions here.
My question was very simple.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, okay. But so questions like, what should the water be like in the stream? I'm just talking about the stream that comes down here. That's what it should be like. This is, I took a video when it was flowing as such. That's what it should be like on a regular basis. And then the question is like, so from a Hawaiian culture perspective, like what is the minimum stream flow there should be? There, somebody said, hey, take my picture. From a Hawaiian culture perspective, the minimum stream flow, because you're going to say it has to be so many million gallons and this has that. I said it should be above my ankles and maybe below my knee, and cold. That's key. The water should be cold. That would support the everything that stream is intended to support. I said that's my measurement. I'm not going to say how many million gallons. I said if I step in that stream and it's above my ankles and at least close to my knee, and the water's running cold, then that's good. And that's what it should be for all the reasons as such. And then we get to, and in closing as such, this is what it was or should be like. This is it's also part of the mele mural on the side of Kahilo Theater of what it once was like. So what are we dealing with now? There's noted deforestation, so our watershed has been impacted. It includes maybe reforesting. Some of there was a mention about that, but more needs to be reforested at the top to the trees, the ferns, everything, and those mosses. They bring in and capture the rain. They capture the aspects of water of Kani, as mentioned in the mele. And then it takes it down into the ferns and other things, and they soak it up and then take it down. And some of it comes off as surface water, some goes down to the aquifer. So helping to restore our watershed is one part of it. But also we have to look at, if we're using water, how to conserve water, how to reuse water. You know, like, I think there should, and we have a state and legislator here, but maybe there should be not to put you on the spot, but I will. But maybe, like, you know, there's incentives to put solar panels to generate alternative electricity. What if we had incentives to put, if you go out here, when you come out here, water catchments at each person's house? It doesn't have to be a massive water catchment like you have to, if you don't off water grid, like in Puna, but it could be something. You look out here, there's several barrels. So just imagine if every household was capturing a certain amount of water when it does rain and using it, whether for the yard or other aspects. Right. That, like, you're using water that's just coming off your roof, and you can use it. So there has to be, like, thinking outside the box of what we can do besides conserving, what other things we can do, like, individually do. And so there has to be sometimes incentives to do that, whether it's in tax incentives or there's other things. But just like the solar, there was tax incentives for the solar, which are going away, right? But maybe there's other incentives for water catchments in small capacity at individual homes, or maybe larger for other places, such as state buildings, schools, and other things, the larger water cup and catchments as such.
I used to work for the Tucson Water Department. We had a lot of rebates and incentives like that. How do we make that happen here fast?
And so those are discussions. I think that whether we have a forum or other things, of how that could happen. And bringing people such as you who have experience, or other people from elsewhere, how they can make it happen. It's going to take certain cases legislation, whether it's at the county level or at the state level, to make push these things forward as such.
It starts with us here today. We all go out, we get a barrel. We don't, on a personal scale, we don't need a grant, we don't need to wait for somebody, we don't need an initiative. We go to Home Depot, we go to Craigslist, we go to Marketplace, we get a barrel or two, we put it at our house, we catch the water. It starts with us. We talk to our neighbor, we talk to our friend, we talk to somebody, and then we continue to come to these forums and these meetings, and we bring the feedback and we say, look, this is what I've been doing at my house, this is how I'm watering my plants, this is how I'm feeding my animals, right? The dogs can drink rainwater or whatever it is. And then we, as a community, we lead it. We start it and we lead it.
And it could be something maybe whether it's Waimea Hawaiian Civic Club or some other organization, have a workshop. Like simple workshop, like we take something you can easily get from your local stores or hardware stores, and how can you set up a simple barrel or barrels? And like, because the examples right here is like you go out and you'll see the barrels here at Kanu. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Sure. I'd love to talk to the lady from Tucson as well. So many years ago, I worked on a statewide water campaign for the state of Texas. And we did research and surveys and focus groups, and we found the biggest motivator to get people to save water was when they knew where the water came from.
Yeah.
And so I think this ties so well to this, you know, where the water is in. You know, like we need more people to understand that it doesn't just come out of your faucet. Right. It comes from our mouth, it comes from our river. Yeah.
And we intend to have, as if possible, to have some site visits to certain places we can't get to, but at least the same thing, like where does our water come from? And I know there's a question up here.
I appreciate the act local, act at home, spread word. I agree with all that. I'm wondering where can I learn more about the diversions? Are there increased diversions as there seem to be more cattle being brought in along Hamakua Coast? Some of those ranchers, from what I'm hearing, not sharing with fire department when increasing numbers of fires are breaking out. Is there more diversion happening over there with cattle that we're not getting any benefit from other than being grazing lands?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll turn it over to our county council member who's from that district, but not maybe today, but because we're going to end. But maybe some of these forums or discussions need to have happen more often, as noted, whether it's workshops or site visits, but it's about informing the community. And so today's session is really about where where are the waters of Kani? And where are the waters of Waimea? And so with that noted, mahalo to everyone for being here and such.